The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the guests appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 8 News Now or Nexstar Media Group.
Well, one of the bills that has been starting to work its way through the legislature is the idea of a national popular vote. So we would tie our electoral votes to how the nation votes in the popular election. Obviously, that would change the way we do things now. What do you think of the idea of doing that?
I do like the idea of one person, one vote, no matter where you live. One thing to consider when talking about this and thinking about this bill is that currently many people in many states, and those states are states with smaller populations, are relegated to spectators during the election. And, you know, presidential candidates have to go to states like ours, sometimes even places like California and things like that. And this is to sort of equal out the balance so that other states aren't relegated to just spectating and getting their issues heard as well. So I like the idea.
What do you think, Alan? Is this too much of a change? Is some sort of a hybrid between this and the Electoral College? Where are you sitting on this?
I'm 100% behind Electoral College. We have one person, one vote right now. Every vote counts on a given level, whether it's a popular vote for Congress or Senate, or an electoral vote as part of Electoral College for the presidency. You're right in the sense that we, as a smaller state, found a way to be able to get some attention during the primaries, and that is to have an early primary or caucus or whatever we have here. But this is early enough. So we get attention here. If we went to a popular vote nationally for president, we would never see anyone here at all, because California, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, maybe Texas, I'm not sure, there are about 5 or 6 states, they would control it all. I mean, they would have the majority of population. We here, like Rhode Island and Vermont and a few other places, Montana, I mean, they would ignore these places entirely, and understandably so. So, no, the Founding Fathers did it for a reason. Every state gets an equitable share in being able to say who should be president of the United States. And so, as imperfect as it may be, it's still the best system that I've ever heard of. Do you think, Maria Teresa, that it seems like you disagree, but what do you think of the notion that this kind of does erase the smaller states in the middle? You said kind of this helps give a voice to some of the other small states. Do you have concerns that the candidates would just focus on the big ticket states?
I think that's always going to be the concern. It's the concern now with the system that we have. But I think that with the national popular vote, it's going to actually help the rest of the country be heard when the votes are actually counted. So the day that it actually matters, on election day, when all the votes are counted, national popular vote is going to win out at the end of the day. And I think as we are trying to figure out how to modernize our elections and figure out how to make sure everybody's voice is heard, no matter where you live, national popular vote is something to consider.
See, what right now we have, though, is an opportunity to have the presidential candidates. There are more coming in this week and next week and everything here. We have an opportunity now under our early primary system or caucus system to have them come and pander to us early. And I guarantee if you had a popular vote, they would be pandering, all of them, Democrats and Republicans alike, but they'd be pandering to the people where the majority of the votes are. I mean, what would they care really about Montana when they can go to California and New York, places like that? They've got mega population of the entire country. So, I mean, small places like Montana, even Nevada, we're not going to have our voices, I don't think, heard as loud as they would in New York, Ohio, places like that.
I want to talk about another bill that's working its way through. It would essentially give police, if you're involved in a crash, the ability to plug a device into your phone. Well, ask you first if you're on the phone, and then if not, plug a device into your phone that would ask, simply would determine whether or not you were manipulating it if you were on it at or around the time of the crash. It's controversial. A lot of people are weighing in on this online. What do you think of that idea?
I think I understand the intent of the bill. I don't like that this is really a slippery slope to start. I don't want my phone to be looked at by someone while, you know, during a car crash. I think it's for a lot of people, it's going to be something sort of a violation of your personal rights before you have a lawyer present before. It's just too much of a slippery slope, too big brother for me.
This is one where you would see the opponents, instead of lining up by party, it's more by philosophy as to who is in favor and who is against.
I would think probably more conservative Republicans would be agreeing with you, and some of the libertarians agreeing with you. And here I am. I'm going to come down on the other side, and the reason for it being, we were talking about this earlier, that I can drive on the freeway, and I imagine you too, and no matter where I'm driving, people are holding their phones up like this, like they're not supposed to right now. You're supposed to do it hands-free. I've seen people driving on freeways texting and things like that. It's against the law. There are no cops around. They're not getting ticketed or busted or anything like that. But I've seen this occur. Thousands of people per year get into accidents based upon being distracted. 500 people nationally a year die from being distracted, and they're saying almost all of those 500 are being distracted by somehow use of a cell phone. You know, I agree with the slippery slope. I don't want them to be able to look into a phone and see everything going on. You know, you don't want that. But what I want to do is give them the opportunity, if you get into a crash, and if there's a fatality in the crash, I want them to be able to determine whether or not you were using your phone, which if you get into a crash and there's a fatality because you weren't paying attention, you were using your phone, an instant felony in my book, and I would throw you in jail for 50 years. I have no use for people who threaten my life. I don't care if you want to go, you know, drive off a cliff. You want to take your own life. That's up to you. But you know what? Don't be taking other people's lives who are innocent. So yeah, on a limited basis, a scope where you can limit it to what they actually are looking for, I would support the bill.
Part of what some of the advocates say is to give the current cell phone law some more teeth, is the ability to do this, but it's a $50 fine. Mm-hmm. You're probably not going to get pulled over that often for an officer to give you a $50 fine. So from your perspective, should there be other things that are done, perhaps increasing the fine, something to that effect to be more preventative so you don't have to get to that point?
Yeah, I think there's definitely ways that we can give this a lot more teeth, whether it's increasing the fine, because I agree. I think it needs to be enforced, because apparently it's not working. People are still on their phones. Yeah. People even are holding it up to their ear. And that does cause it does cause dangers on the road, but sort of, you know, from the libertarian, extra conservative, sort of individual talking philosophy, I don't want it to be to where everything can be looked at. I think if we're talking about the specific bill, there has to be some negotiation about where do we draw the line about not violating personal liberties at the end of the day, because it is your personal property. So we need to figure out what kind of crash is it going to be, you know, because it can't just be you bumped someone in the back and no one was hurt, and all of a sudden you're looking at a person's personal information. So there has to be some negotiation here, and I think that's what we're going to end up at the end of the day.
And I think in a deadly crash, prosecutors do have the option, and investigators, to subpoena phone records and things like that to help make that determination.
I agree. And
so that ability is out there, but that's in a situation where somebody passes away.
Right, and I don't know if, or somebody that's severely maimed even. I mean, if there's something that's gross that goes on, I think that you have to consider it. I don't know whether increasing the fines on using handheld devices right now is going to make a difference. I do agree with it, though. I do agree with it. And I agree with it because cell phones are still a relatively new technology. Now, you know, I remember driving from my home in Northern California to a studio I worked at in San Francisco, and I remember seeing somebody actually reading the newspaper in the morning. I mean, this is before cell phones. You know, it was like, well, that guy's stupid, you know, and that kind of a thing. I don't know if he's paying attention. That was one guy I saw that one time. They did for a while actually talk about making steering wheels with built-in areas, shelves, that you could put your laptop on. They did that that didn't last very long. That idea came out.
I can imagine it
okay,
did. Yeah.
So again, cell phone usage, texting and talking, all relatively still new. So the laws regarding the usage of these things is evolving, and you're getting so many people, as you've seen and I've seen, I'm sure you have too, holding their phone up and maybe texting while they're driving on the freeway. I'm sorry. You know, again, it's my life, my children's life, my grandchildren's life. You want to fall off a cliff, be my guest. But don't take any of us with you.
We saw, I think, the turning of a page and perhaps a chapter in one of the biggest stories that we've had in a while, and that's the huge fine that was levied against Wynn Corporation. I should edit that comment by saying huge relative to. So, okay, a large fine that it was a record fine, $20 million, but compared to what the Wynn company makes, it's not huge. But still, is it significant enough to send a big enough message to other companies that enough's enough, this has to stop?
I think it's a good first step, sort of. I agree that if you look from an internal perspective in a big company, this can be sort of chump change sometimes, but I think it does send a message that this type of stuff is going to start be taken seriously. That when you have leaders of corporations or anywhere doing this sexual predator behavior, that we're going to start taking it seriously, and that it's not going to, people aren't, men or women or whoever, aren't going to be suffering in silence anymore, and that they will actually be listened to, and that there will be repercussions. I think it's a good sign. It's a welcome sign. There was a representative from the Attorney General's office that had even likened it, and I don't have the exact quote off the top of my head, but the disregard for investigating these claims was as bad as when organized crime was running some of the casinos here, talking about the mob. The state was upset about this, obviously, in levying this fine. Do you think that this goes far enough to try to clean up the image a little bit of our casinos?
This is, first of all, two things. One, this is like 4 times any other fine that they've ever levied before. So this is a huge, significant fine. I mean, $20 million, you're right. Some people's chump change, not to me, not us, but to some people it's chump change. Yes, I think that what happened, unfortunately, was I think that we did take a hit from this, the casinos and our image and everything else. Now you can have Oscar out there for 12 years, as we've had when he was mayor, with a big martini glass and 2 half-naked girls on the other side, and they said, well, that's Las Vegas, and people did relate to it that way, and it was fun, and it still is fun in a lot of ways. But it's not fun to be abused by someone, male or female, doesn't matter, and no, you can't do anything about it, and have the owners, the administrators, those people at the top know they can get away with this stuff. And the only way that we can really make sure that they're going to think twice is to really sock it to them hard. I think this does send a message out that we are serious about it. I don't think it's probably going far enough, and I don't even dollar-wise. I mean, I'm talking about in terms of laws, because people should not have to go to work and feel that they've got to shut up. They're going to, they can be abused. I can't say anything, or I'm going to lose my job. That shouldn't be happening. Shouldn't be happening in Las Vegas. Shouldn't be happening in Nevada. Shouldn't be happening in America. And so, I mean, $20 million. It's a good start, but that's all it is a start.
Okay, so you're both using the similar term. The Wynn Corporation, the CEO, Matt Maddox, said they had made a number of changes, the board makeup, policy changes, a lot of different changes. As a company, have they gone far enough to address the issues? Obviously pushing Steve Wynn out a year ago as well, but have they done their due diligence to get on the right path? I think changing your policies and changing leadership and making sure different people are in place is a good start, but we're really going to see when the policies are there's changing policies, and then there's implementing policies and make sure that they are being implemented. This issue with sexual assault in the workplace is something that it's a work in progress. I think many companies like the Wynn and even government is something that they're finally taking action on. So we're really not going to know if things are working until later down the road, when things are being implemented, when people are actually coming forward, and we're going to actually test these policies and test these changes.
We're not on the inside I don't work for Wynn, I'm not on the inside, so you're right, they've initiated some changes, but are they really effective? Are they going to be effective? Well, you're 100% right. We've got to wait and see how time goes. Just because they create a policy doesn't mean it's being implemented or implemented correctly. So, I mean, we've got to wait and see. But again, to me, it's only a start.
Well, we've seen this week also the big news on Capitol Hill. Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former personal attorney, the president's former personal attorney, testifying in front of Congress. this as the president goes overseas on a summit with Kim Jong-un of North Korea. Does the testimony that came out hurt the president at all? And also, I kind of interested the timing, considering it's at the same time of some talks that seem to have fallen apart, at least. Just the totality of all of this, has this hurt the president?
You know, I think this whole investigation sometimes gets tiring, and will it hurt the president? It gets tiring because it seems like Donald Trump is the Teflon candidate that no matter what you say, it sort of just bounces back and nothing ever really changes. He just continues to be who he is, and it seems that we get nowhere. So does it hurt the president? I think it hurts the president with the people that are already against Donald Trump and that are for this investigation and that see the sort of the writing on the wall, but it doesn't hurt him with his base, though. I don't think it will.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to disagree too much with those points, Alan, but looking at the timing and all of this as well, I know you've been really paying attention, and you kind of have a theory on the timing of this with North Korea talks.
Well, yeah, first of all, real quickly, I think that it's very telling that the Congress would take a convicted liar, a guy who is convicted of a felony of lying before Congress, as his testimony to give his first testimony up there on this. You're right, they've found nothing 2 years later. This whole thing was about collusion with Russia and all that stuff. Nothing has been found at all. It was an absolute joke having it up there. Cohen said, as a matter of fact, as part of this, one of the things he did say was interesting. He said, "Yes, I lied, but I'm not a liar." I'm going, what was that again? He lied, but he's not a liar. Okay, so somebody explain to me what a liar is if you're not lying. He also said that he knew of, quote, no direct evidence tying Trump or his campaign to collusion with Russia. And then he went on to say this. He said, so I have no direct evidence. Okay, well, of course, there is no evidence. It's the whole thing has been a joke. But I have my suspicions. See, and I told you, this is what, it's called a whispering campaign. And this is what the McCarthy folks did back in the 50s. You know, it's like, I have no evidence, Patrick, that you're a communist. I have no evidence, but you know what? I have my hunch, though. Well, Alan has his hunch, and I can get you down in 2 seconds by just saying that without saying, but there's no evidence to it. This is what he was doing yesterday. I have no evidence, but I have, my hunch to this whole thing. This guy is a puke. He did it to be able to get a reduction in his time served. Democrats initiated this for a couple of reasons. And I'll get into the Korea thing real quickly in a second. But they did it also because they wanted him to say, which he did say, he said that Trump was a racist and a bunch of other things. Representative Rashid Tlaib, a virulent racist out of Michigan, accused the Republicans of bringing a woman to testify on behalf of Trump. A woman happens to be black. Racism. You brought a black woman here to testify for Trump, therefore you're a racist. This woman actually grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and said she could no way work for an individual who she knew was racist, working for Trump for 10 years and never heard anything racist out of him, by the way. This is what Lynn Patton is her name. She's with the, she's an official with HUD. So that's one reason that they were trying to do it. They're trying to smear him. No matter, they can find nothing. Number two, they were trying to go ahead and I think take the luster away from what the president was doing in Korea. That was one of the reasons. I think they're trying to detract from it. However, as of this moment, we know now that those talks have been put on hold between Trump and Kim. And I think the reason they've been put on hold, several reasons. And one is the president declared as part of the delaying of this, quote, no rush, we just want to do the right deal. The man who wrote, The Art of the Deal. He understands. Well, he knows what he wants. No rush, he said. We just want the right deal. Kim was asked whether he was ready to denuclearize. Are you really ready to do it? And he said, if I'm not willing to do that, I wouldn't be here right now. So he was honest about that. Yes, he's willing to do it. What will happen? My predictions, you can mark this down. One is the Democrats can't detract from the success, no matter how much they try. Next time around, when they meet, or the time after, and when they have a deal, the deal is going to be much closer to the 2020 election than now. he didn't want to do a deal now. I mean, we're already, 18 months away from the presidential election, right? So I think what he was trying to do was saying, hold on, no rush, let's wait until closer to the election itself. Very smart move by Trump, very smart move. I predict it will include an armistice that formally ends the war, and he'll get kudos and credit for that. And it will include reunification or unification of the North and South Korea, and under one heading. My predictions on all of those. And people who are diehard like this Tlaib and many other Democrats or the far left will hate Trump. Again, if he walked on water, they say he couldn't swim, right? So they'll hate him even though he gets his deal with Korea. But the country will love him for it, and the world will praise him for it. He may even be up with Kim for the Nobel Prize. How do you like that? Even though they would have earned it, unlike Obama.
A lot to unpackage there. So, Maria Teresa, you've got the final word here on this. Your analysis of what Alan just said.
I don't know about the North Korea predictions. I think if that happens, it'll be a miracle. But
You'd be happy.
I think everybody would be happy with common sense. I don't think it'll happen though, but we'll see. With back to the investigations, I do think that there is more there more than a hunch, and that's why this testimony is happening, and that's why Mueller is still investigating. So I think there's more than hunches there. So I think that's why this is happening, and this is why Cohen came up. Is he trying to get a lighter sentence, what have you? That's how this system works. But I think there's more than hunches there. So we'll see about the hunches and the collusion in a little bit.
Have we seen any evidence about collusion? The people who have been convicted have all been convicted of things that they did individually. There's not been one shred of evidence, and again, if there is, please educate me. One shred of evidence that shows there was, quote unquote, any collusion between Trump or his campaign and the Ruskies.
Well, all the people that were working for him, all these people that you said did things individually, you can tell a lot about a candidate and a politician with the people that are surrounding him. So I think that says a lot.
I'm not disagreeing with you, by the way. The only thing I'm saying is that has there been one smidge of evidence that any of this, the people who surrounds himself with, people convicted, anything going on, Michael Cohen testimony, whatever, one smidge of evidence that shows that there's been any collusion? That's what I'm asking. And
I think we're going to see it. I think this is what this investigation is about. But the investigation isn't over.
I promise, Maria Teresa, so the last word. We're going to leave it there because we're going to be talking about this a lot more probably next week and the weeks to come. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you.